Hi folks, welcome to my channel. Merry Christmas to those of you who are celebrating Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah to those of you who are celebrating Hanukkah. And today was the last day of Hanukkah. So today folks, I want to talk about the province of Newfoundland and how shady and evil the province is and its system. So on November 24th, so the judge um, subpoenaed the social worker to come and testify. But before the judge subpoenaed the social worker, there's been conflicting messages coming from the court system to see that these people are possessed. They are wicked people. So right after the judge left, after she had requested my abuser to bring a letter from his psychiatrist and me to provide a recording where my abuser made a threat to hurt my child to get to me, and also subpoenaing social workers. So what happened is that after that, the judge left. I went to the court clerk, the same clerk that's dealing with my case, and I asked her who's gonna subpoena the social worker, because the judge said that the social workers will be subpoenaed. And she goes, it's his lawyer will subpoena the social worker, will write a letter. I'm like, oh, okay. So I think it was a few days, I think 2 days before, 2 business days before the court proceeding again, I asked the social workers if they heard received any subpoena from the court. They mentioned no, they have not received anything, and they're not gonna show up at court if they are not properly served any subpoena. I went back to court to ask about the subpoena. Guess what happened? The same clerk who told me that my abuser's lawyer is the one who's going to write a letter to subpoena the social worker, guess what she said to me? She said, oh, well, you are the one who's going to write the letter. I said, hello, excuse me, you mentioned that the letter will be written by my abuser's lawyer. And she goes, well, this is your case. It's you who has to write a letter, send it to us, and we will sign it, and then you send it to the social worker to subpoena them. This is your case. I'm like, excuse me? That's not what you said at the courtroom. She intimidated me here by lying to see how evil is this court system in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. These people have no soul at all. So, coming to the day of the 24th of December, because that happened on the 20 something of, I cannot remember the date very well. So so when the social worker was subpoenaed, they came and testified. They gave a mind-blowing, overwhelming testimony against my abuser. I did not even know that he had a history of abuse known by social workers. All of his children mothers reported him to the social workers, and how of a threat he is to children, and that he abused them. He had no access of any kids. He has 3 biological children. None of them he has access to. So now he's fighting for my daughter, because I am not from Newfoundland and I'm not from this country. So this is about control and dominion over me, right? He's trying to intimidate me because I'm not from this country. This is what's going on here. And the court apparently is aware of this. They know this. Fast forward, the social worker even mentioned that there's a recording that I have that they listened to. So she was wondering if I had a chance to play it there. I did play the recording after, and the judge took notes from the recording. Right, and after I gave my mind-blowing arguments, right, which made all of these people uncomfortable. The judge herself was so embarrassed. My abuser's lawyer and my abuser, they were all embarrassed about my argument, because I had to state the facts that my abuser used to address me as his black slave that he purchased with a dowry payment. This abuser abused me to the core, and had also mentioned in a court that I'm seeking full custody in order to stay in this country to avoid deportation. I mentioned that this is not about me staying in this country. I'm requesting full custody because my daughter is not safe in his hands. I mentioned that I can request immigration to deport me together with my daughter. My daughter is a citizen. She can always come back to Canada. And I mentioned that I will do anything to protect my daughter. Because as a mother, I have an obligation to protect her. Guess what happened? 3 weeks later, the evil judge gave a biased decision against me. She allowed my abuser access to my daughter. Although there are safety concerns, she ignored them to show that she's not well in her brain. To me, she is a psychopath. There is no judge in the right mind will do what this judge has done to me, against me. She's a woman, but she was able to protect my abuser because my abuser is a Newfoundlander, right? So in Newfoundland, it does not matter. They will do anything to protect the abusers as long as they are Newfoundlanders. When you come from a different territory, they will oppress you in Newfoundland. That's what's going on here. So my abuser, despite paying child support, have not paid child support, has gotten 2 emergency protection orders from provincial court because of stalking me, because of abuse. It did not matter from this psychopath called herself a judge. Yeah, I said it. This leads me back to the question. Tell me, how much did they pay you? Because in my understanding that, you know, you've been bought. Okay, there's no judge in the right mind will come with a very biased decision like you did if you are not paid. You cannot do this for free. So tell me, how much you were paid? My abuser's parents are paying. They have retained a lawyer because I know my abuser cannot afford a lawyer. They're retaining the lawyer to help him oppress me, stay here and suffer. Because they want to be involved. They want nothing to do with me. He mentioned this at the courtroom, that his parents want nothing to do with me. Oh, by the way, folks, the same parents are the same parents when my abuser has caused family violence, right? And I was in the shelter. He seized my belongings and the belongings of my daughter, including my breast milk that I pumped for my daughter. Boxes and boxes of diapers worth up to 6 months. This milk, breast milk that I pumped for my daughter was up to 8 months to a year. Child storable food that is up to 6 months. Medicine, clothes, my clothes and other belongings. He seized them. He was vindictive. He lied to the police that, oh, I took everything. Lying. He had admitted to court that he seized 90% of my daughter's belongings. Nothing happened, right? Because he's a Newfoundlander. In Newfoundland, an abuser is entitled to abuse you and get away with it, as long as he's a Newfoundlander. It's okay to abuse a non-Newfoundlander. It's okay. So for me, it's okay. He abused a black girl. Well, by the way, my abuser used to call me his black slave. He used to intimidate me, saying that, like, if I report him to the police, nothing will happen to him. He's ex-military, and all these police grew up with him. There's nothing will happen to him. He used to intimidate me inside that abusive marriage. The court is aware of this. You, psychopath judge, you know about this. I presented overwhelming evidence, but you still failed to look into the evidence. Because I did not charge him, you are using that against me to oppress and intimidate me. How evil are you? Yeah, I said it. What you gonna do about that? I can't wait for this case to be over so that the whole Canada and the whole world will know who you are. The same judge requested that my abuser present a letter from a psychiatrist. Guess what his lawyer did? This evil lawyer manipulated the psychologist, my abuser psychologist, who is paid by the military, to write an outstanding letter to support him. Guess what? This psychologist wrote a letter to confirm that my abuser was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and major depression, anxiety disorder. She also mentioned that my abuser was seen by a psychiatrist, and this was not an ongoing support because he was engaged in therapy. She also mentioned that these mental disorders does not present as a barrier into his parenting. There was a BS, pile of BS. I did not get a chance to base my arguments in that letter because the court did not provide me with that letter. Even my abuser's lawyer did not provide that letter with me. He had to share the letter with me, and he did not do that because I'm being intimidated by the court system because I'm self-represent. I'm not self-represent because of choice. I was mistreated by legal aid, by the way, and I'm fighting this battle without a lawyer. I need help, and I cannot afford a lawyer. This is what's happening to me in Newfoundland. Do you think I like this province? I hate it to the core. Because of abuse I have endured and I'm still going through by the court system now. Trying to side with my abuser. Although he's wrong, there's overwhelming evidence that he abused me and that my child is not safe. Based on that forged letter by a psychologist, when this mentally there's something wrong with this judge. She's sick in her head. This makes me very angry because I went through so much abuse from my abuser, and now I'm trying to be free, but the court system is oppressing me to side with my abuser. And you call yourself what? Justice? What kind of justice is that? You giving to an abuser? What about the child? Because this should be about the child's best interest. Do you think that your judgment, your biased judgment, was at my child's best interest? To be given access to a very unsafe father and unfit for a deadbeat? Social worker said no. They will have concerns if he is given access to my daughter. You decided not to allow social worker to come in the middle of this. Because social workers are in the right. So you have to oppress me because the social workers as Department of Safety for Children in Canada are backing me up because they have history of abuse known to them from my abuser, that he abused other baby mamas and other women who had children. But you evil judge, you had to side with my abuser. This leads me back to the question, how much did his parents pay you? Because I heard that most judges take bribes from $40,000 upwards. You sold your soul for what? For money? And you don't care about losing your career as a judge? Shame on you, psychopath. There's no justice here. You don't understand what justice is, because I think there's something wrong in your head. And you are a woman, you give this biased judgment? Shame on you. That's pathetic. This is not Canada. This letter, folks, I was giving at the door towards the courtroom. I did not get a chance to base my arguments in that forged letter. When the judge herself said she needed a letter from a psychiatrist, but she's taking a letter from a psychologist. A psychologist is not a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist is a doctor for mentally unstable people. Mentally unstable people. But as a judge, she knows the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. But guess what? Because she took bribe, she took a letter from a psychologist that I was in touch with, that know about abuse that I went through from my abuser. I have questions for her. How come she wrote an outstanding letter like that when she knew about abuse? When she knew that my abuser beat me up in front of children were present and kicked me out. I went to the shelter. I was pregnant. She knew this. So how come she read this outstanding letter that his mental disorder does not present as a barrier to his parenting? I have questions for her, but I'm being intimidated by the court system here because I do not have a lawyer and I'm black. They are all white, oppressing me. You oppressors. So this judge has to give a biased judgment based on that letter. Although there's history of abuse, no. Just because I did not charge my abuser, this gave her a very biased reason as to why she would give my abuser access to my daughter, supervised by his evil parents who want nothing to do with me, but want something to do with my daughter. The same daughter they failed to help. When my abuser seized our belongings, I called them to go get the diapers and breast milk for my daughter. They ignored me because they were condoning the abuse from their son to me and to my daughter. The same daughter that this evil judge granted them supervised access. There's another child in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. They have no access to that child because the mother said, no, I don't want those lunatics around my child. I don't want that abuser around my child. I conceived through rape by that abuser, and I do not want him around my child. He's a pedophile. But guess what? When I mentioned that as well, the judge blocked me because she did not want to hear that I do have evidence in print. I'm being intimidated by the court system in Corner Brook. I still have overwhelming evidence in print and also in recording. I haven't got a chance to present all evidence I have because I'm being intimidated. I was told that the judge is not taking any documents from you for this case, for originating application and also for interim application, because she already made up her mind that she's granting access to my abuser. My abuser got in 2 emergency protection order in February and in September. He breached the first emergency protection order by trying to communicate with my family to beg me to go back to him. And I said, I'm done. I want nothing to do with that evil beast. He's a monster. In September past, he was stalking me where I live. I called the police. The police instructed me to go apply for another EPO. And it was granted. He did not contest them because he knows he's guilty. Guess what happened? The judge has to sugarcoat things for him. Police records mention that the suspicion of guilt is there, although I did not charge him. He abused me to the core. But the court system, this is a woman who's giving an unjust and biased judgment. Because He's a Newfoundlander and an ex-military. So he is right to get away with abuse. Shame on you, evil judge. You will be exposed. The world and whole Canada as well will know who you are. And you, the clerk, who's biased and who's intimidating me, and you, my abuser's lawyer, you all will be exposed. There's nothing you can do to silence me. I'm not one of y'all, as you can see. I'm bold, I'm brave. Nothing can stop me. I was abused. I had enough of abuse. Enough is enough. There's nothing that y'all can do to stop me, okay? There's nothing y'all can do to intimidate me, okay? I got good people that I trust, that whatever that you do will continue to expose you. So there's nothing that you can do to me. I fear nothing. I'm a Zulu warrior. Enough is enough of this abuse. So I'm inviting all the deadbeats and all the abusers in Canada to move to Newfoundland, because Newfoundland is a province that side with abusers and deadbeats. You don't have to pay no child support. In Newfoundland, the court system will back you up, okay? There's a guy from India who was a student here in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, was married. This guy was married to a white lady, a Newfoundlander. Guess what happened to him? The same court, Corner Brook, Newfoundland, had a very unbiased judgment against this poor Indian guy. So this Newfoundlander went to the shelter and claimed to have been abused, beaten by this poor Indian guy. She went to court and applied for interim custody. They both did not have lawyers, so they went to court. She mentioned that she just told basically what happened. She told the truth about what happened. There was no substantial evidence or whatsoever. Apparently, the East Indian guy was found guilty of abuse. Guess what happened to him? Was jailed for 6 months. After that, was released, was given an option to go to jail again for 3 years or get deported back to India. To see what evil and abominable these people are. Trying to find justice for a white girl who's a Newfoundlander against a brown girl from India. A brown guy from India, I meant. The poor guy was forced to sign all the rights to the mother, the rights to his son to the mother, and was deported back to India. He left Corner Brook, Newfoundland this year in March 2022. You see what extent the government of Newfoundland could go in the name of protecting their Newfoundlanders? Did they care to find out the truth? If this guy really abused her? I don't think so. So they had to go extra mile to punish him. Because the Newfoundlander said that, oh, he beat me. How many times that my abuser has beaten me and he was not charged? How many times my abuser has sexually assaulted me and he was not charged? He made a threat to harm my child in order to get to me. Your laws in this country says that parents may be denied access when the child is known to be at serious risk of abuse. He made a direct threat to harm my child in order to get to me. And he has mental disorders. But you still gave him access. The worst part, not supervised by social workers, to be supervised by his parents who want nothing to do with me, but want something to do with my daughter. Lunatic people. I mentioned to you, your justice, that I do not want them around my daughter. When you ask my abuser, since your parents have not seen the child, who has seen your child? Have they seen the child? He's like, my parents want nothing to do with my ex-wife, but they want something to do with my daughter. My daughter is black. Like you always said, my abuser, that I'm black. And the police won't believe me when I attempted to call the police, right? And you mentioned that you grew up with police here. There's nothing that I can do. They will side with you. And then your father was a city councilor. Then you said that you always intimidate me, right? So now your parents are supervising a black child, right? Isn't she a black too? Because you used to call me your black slave. So isn't my daughter your black slave too? What do you want from a black slave child? You have another child, other kids. A second child, you have no access to her. You haven't seen her because of abuse. The mother conceived through rape from you. You never came after that child. And you know why. But now you're trying to intimidate me because I'm not a Newfoundland. I'm not from this country. This is all about dominion and control. And your lunatic parents are siding with you. They're lunatic. Shame on you. And you call yourself parents? To me, you're evil people. There's no parents in the right mind will do what you're doing to sugarcoat things for your son. Because no matter your son is wrong, you still have to tell them the truth. That no, son, you don't have to do things this way. No. You have to tell him the truth and give him tough love. You're petting him. Oh, you evil parents. I do not want you around my daughter. And you think that my daughter will grow up liking you when you hate me? When you want nothing to do with me? Guess what? I hate you too, and I want nothing to do with you. And my daughter will grow up hating you. She will know the truth when she's older. And she will want nothing to do with you and nothing to do with your son either. She will know everything, all the pain that your son put me through. She will know also the pain I went through in this court to find justice for me and her. She will know all about this. And she will want nothing to do with y'all, evil people. And I'm going to disclose your names very soon. After this case is over, all hell will break loose. And there's nothing you can do about it. I know what you did. You paid when the second child mother of your son charged him. You paid for an expensive lawyer. This is what you are doing again with me. You are retaining, because this abuser has no money. He's in debt. You are retaining a lawyer for him, trying to help him to oppress this girl. She must stay. How can I stay here? I mean, folks, I do not have medical coverage in Newfoundland. I was denied medical coverage, and I don't have no documents here. Expired. So I need to go back to BC where I came from with this child. If this child has to be raised in Canada. Because I'm not desperate to stay in this country. I hate this country, especially Newfoundland. I hate Newfoundland. I want to go back to my home province in British Columbia, where this child was born, where my home is. Your Divorce Act laws say that a relocation or a move is permitted. A move of a mother or a parent and the child. I'm not from Newfoundland. This abuser brought me to Newfoundland. And I'm back in Newfoundland now because of manipulation and abuse and lies. And being sold out. Now when I go back, I'm being oppressed by the court system. I'm not a Newfoundlander. Why can't you let me go? Back to BC where I came from with this child to raise her. This abuser knew. He mentioned that he will try his hardest to impregnate me, to get me pregnant before I get deported. He knew what he was saying. So now you are trying to help him to oppress me, to stay in Newfoundland? How can I stay here when it's hard to survive? When I have no job, when I cannot work, when I have no MCP here? I have arthritis today that is affecting me day and night. And I can't get medical coverage because I have no MCP. I have no medical coverage. How can I survive in Newfoundland when it's hard for me to survive with this child? And this abuser mentioned that he don't want to pay spousal support. So how can I stay here and survive? I'm quoting Laura Lynn. A big shout out to you, Laura Lynn. I love you so much. So Laura Lynn used to mention in her shows, Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, that if we are being silent by these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot afford to do that. Folks, if I'm silent about these abominable things that have been done to me by my abuser and has been done to me by the court in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, then I'm letting this evil go unchecked. And I cannot afford to do that. There's nothing you can do to silence me, Corner Brook, Newfoundland court. There's nothing you can do to silence me, my abuser, and everybody involved in this case. You tried to intimidate me, right? Your dad tried to intimidate me by following me around, trying to intimidate me, and your mother tried to do that. Nobody can intimidate me. I've been through worse in my life. So now enough is enough. I've been through worse with you, my abuser, abusing me because you think that I'm desperate to stay in Canada, right? I'm done with your abuse. Now it's time to expose you. I'm inviting other government department in other provinces in Canada to please look things into further, especially my case in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. Because there's no justice in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. The Corner Brook, Newfoundland court deported an East Indian guy who was a student. What about the best interest of the child? Because there was a child of marriage. You had to deport the father. So now this child, this poor boy is growing up without a father because you were trying to find justice for a Newfoundlander. What about the best interest of the child? It's the very same court that says to me, according to the best interest of the child, like, regarding the Divorce Act laws, both parents need to be involved in their child's life. What about the East Indian guy that you deported this year in March 2022? Trying to find justice for a Newfoundlander. What about the best interest of that child? Because that child is a child of marriage. They are married. The poor dude was forced to sign all his rights to the child and was deported back to India. This is what you're thinking about, my abuser? You think that I'm going to get deported and I'm going to leave my daughter behind with you and your evil family? It's never going to happen. Immigration cannot deport me without my daughter. As you know what happened last year, that I almost left this country. I did your son a favor. Now you are using that against me to oppress me. I will never leave this country without my daughter. Get it through your head. I'm not from this country, and you won't stop me from leaving this country with my child. I never threatened to take her out of this country. What I mentioned in that court is that this abuser is saying that I'm seeking full custody to stay in Canada to avoid deportation. So again, I'm clarifying things to you that I'm seeking full custody because my child is not safe. Your laws in Canada say that if you abuse me, you will abuse my child too. This abuser already made a direct threat to harm my child to get to me. And he has mental conditions. Number two, he mentioned in front of you, your justice, that he will never take pharmaceuticals. And you kept silent. He has mental disorders, 2 of them, and he's not taking medication. Number 2, he's vaping marijuana, which makes his mental disorder worse. He was seen by this psychologist in 2019, so she cannot write a letter that was supposed to be written by a psychiatrist. You requested a letter from a psychiatrist. How about that? I'm expecting you to let this guy do the right thing by bringing a letter from a psychiatrist as you requested. If you claim to be justice person, then you will request a letter from a psychiatrist, because that a doctor that deal with mentally unstable people. You have been biased so far in my case. By taking a letter from a psychologist, I do have questions for her. I'm expecting you to subpoena this lady because I have many questions for her to ask her in front of you. Because you're biased here. And it's pathetic of how evil and abominable you are, and you claim to be justice. This case will be over, and all your names will be exposed. In conclusion, I'm going to close with a word of God found on the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse number 18. That says, for I reckon that the suffering of these present times are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. Folks, there's a glory which shall be revealed in us. Not to the evil people. To the good people. Stay strong, folks. I love you from my heart. You know, we live at very difficult times in our world these days, where good is bad and where bad is good, where good people like you and I have been oppressed by the evildoers, and where evildoers have been endorsed by the devil to oppress good people like you and I. Do you know why they hate us? Because we got God by our side, and we have truth, and the truth is of God. Let me communicate something to you, evildoers. What's this for? For what? For money? We shall all leave money behind the grave. Shame on you, evildoers. To good people out there, people of God who stand by truth, who has truth and light of God, I want to leave you with a word of encouragement that is found on the book of Isaiah 54:17. That says, no weapon formed against you will prosper, and you will condemn every tongue that rises against you in judgment. guess what? We will judge the evildoers. Anytime that is rising against us right now at Judgment Day, we shall condemn. I love you, good people. Let's stand for what's right. Let's stand for truth, because truth has power to do one thing, to set us free. I love you with all my heart. This is Bree. Stay tuned.